Hello, this is a Bluthner style 6 grand piano that's 5 foot 9 inches long, made in 1912, and we acquired it a couple of years ago. A client's been renting it out since January. It's just come back in, so just seeing what work might need to be done to perfect it. So I've made a worksheet of the piano. I'm just going to look at it briefly, and then we'll look at the worksheet. These are replacement keys, they're not originals, and they're sort of made to look like ivory. If you see, there's a slight grain there, but it's actually uniform. It's not like ivory, but very tasteful, really, off-white. And the casework was French polish. It's actually been restored by a firm that was called Piano Workshop, and he's retired now. So we had another piano of his in recently, a Grote and Steinberg upright. So good quality restorer, and as you can see from the inside, it's beautifully done, and the paint's very good on the frame. Sometimes that peels off. If it's obviously been applied very, very well. So looking at the soundboard, that's perfect as well. So generally an excellent restoration. I expect that when I get one that the Piano Workshop restored previously. So as you can see, the inside is pretty perfect. Looking around the outside, just the odd blemish. It's black. You can see where someone's touched in on the top here. That's probably the worst one, actually. And around this side, so in good condition generally. There's a kind of French polish, I think, slightly, as you can see on the top. I think we can probably improve that slightly as well. Looks worse on the video actually than it does live, but I'm trying to show you the worst, obviously the worst possible, as a reflection of the skylights here. It shows it up pretty well, but it doesn't look terribly bad to me. On the video it doesn't look good at all for some reason. Anyway, the piano itself is an excellent instrument, one that we're really pleased to get back in, and we're really pleased to get it in the first place. Now the legroom here is 61 centimetres, slightly less than the Feurich, new Feurich set of 62.5, and Feurich uprights, the Yamaha U1, roughly the same as each other. So I find that very slightly low for me. I'm 5 foot 10 and a half, so my legs do fit, but I've raised it up on caster cups. I did find the glass ones, which take it up by 3 centimetres, were too much, so I've got these wooden ones which are 2 centimetres, and that's just right. And the pedals being very low, 4.5 without them, they now come up to 6.5 roughly, just under 7, and with the glass ones they were too high, just over 8. Again, upright and grand pianos are normally 7, new ones or 6.5 to 7. That's a comfortable height, really. I often mention this because if a lot of people do try pianos out without coming to see them, so I think that's kind of important to think about. And if you want to try a piano out for a month or 10 months, which is the normal period of time, then you're most welcome to do so. You can see the quality of the restringing here. All the tuning pins are identical height, the right height, very tight. I've just been tuning and perfecting the piano actually for a couple of hours today, and doing some voicing and things like that. One interesting thing I noticed, which is that these two notes, if you listen to the damping, very good, but we'll get a couple of notes that isn't. Hear that? Those two. And I wondered why. I was searching everywhere. Then I realised it's these two aliquots here are actually not being damped off properly, so they do cause extra resonance. That's the idea of the aliquots, though I think if you're a technician you probably agree with me it's not hugely significant, and we often buy the next model down, model 5, or so this is a 6, which is aliquot scaling. They've taken the name aliquot scaling off there actually, and the serial number too. The serial number was found inside the piano, as it always is, so that was got the exact date of the piano. Now it's patent action Bluthners, as they all are, so about 1925, and if we look at the action here, you can see that the hammers have been replaced. There's not a huge amount of wear, in fact very little wear since. I've voiced them because they seemed a bit hard, the tone of them. These are Arbel hammers, Arbel Bluthner hammers, which are exactly what we would use too, possibly Renner. Sometimes we use one of either. These were a bit tight. I've just lubricated them, and as I say, some voicing. The regulation is pretty good. If you watch that hammer, ideally, as I release the back check by taking my finger a bit on the key, the hammer should rise up slightly. It's very hard to achieve that with a Bluthner. At least it should stay still and not go down. I'll show you what would happen if the spring wasn't working properly. So let's disable that spring. At the moment that spring is causing it. It is rising slightly as I take the back check off there by lifting my finger a little bit, so it's rising slightly. If I disable the spring completely so it's not working, there we are, taking it completely out, then let's see what happens. So it'll play the first time and then it goes down and it won't play the second time because the spring is holding it up. It's really important that the spring is in place, so it's good to put it back in again. There we are, and now we'll try it again. So it's now going up. And to adjust the springs, I wouldn't recommend bending the L, but pulling them backwards and forwards is the way that we normally do it. So pull it backwards and forwards. If you bend the L, there's a good chance you could break it. We've broken a couple in our time. They don't break very often, but they can break. By the way, there's the serial number at the back of the piano, and it's on, well, 99% of Bluthners have that on. Occasionally I've seen it painted over, but not normally, it's always there. So if you haven't got it on the top, it's often on the action as well. There it is on the action, though I suspect it might have been put on if the action was worked on at some stage and they wanted to make sure they didn't mix the wrong action with a different piano. And by the way, you see several of these shanks have been replaced. That's absolutely normal when the hammers are redone. Shanks can break, so replacements are easily available. If you're worried, you're thinking, well, this type of Bluthner action, which is patent, unique to Bluthners, is not available. It certainly is, and because there's so many of them, all the Bluthner grams up to 1925 really, about that date. We're trying to check on the dates to get more accurate, but 1925 certainly you have some patent and some roller, so that's the patent action. I've talked about that before, so I won't mention it very much more. By the way, when they took the keys out, they numbered them, but they also put this slightly diagonal line, which is a good idea, to make sure that the key stays in place. So if you have numbered them, you don't really need that. So a diagonal line, I would make it slightly more diagonal than that, but well, there's nothing wrong with this. I don't know why I'm saying that. Well, maybe it's a bit on the straight side there. If it's diagonal, you can match it up more easily. So most of the things on the assessment sheet I've mentioned already. There's details on the piano, and recovered key tops and black French polish. It's probably French polish, and I think our polish is going to probably be able to improve that slightly as well. So the legroom, you can see I've been in a bit of a mess here because I tried it with different caster cups, and I do find that the wooden ones are 2 centimetres rather than 3 is the right amount to go up. Otherwise the pedals are too high. They're about 8 centimetres from the floor, which is a bit on the high side, so 7 is acceptable. Just under 7 they are, so that's fine with the caster cups. That might not be an issue, but as I say, as people are renting pianos out without coming to see them, it's quite an important thing, I think, to know how you'd feel underneath the piano, whether it fits you or not, as it were. And there's the key weighting, slightly on the high side on some of these, so we're redoing those. Now the up weight is quite high. We talked about this on Bluthners before. Not as high as most digital pianos, but acoustic pianos, say like we've just done a Bechstein upright Model 9, it had 25 or 24, and that feels really very beautiful. This is more like a feel of a keyboard, but not quite as a digital piano. Digital pianos vary. Sometimes they have piano keys that simulated piano keys, in which case they are nearer to a normal piano. So let's have a listen to the piano with some. Oh, by the way, this was extra work. The bass hammers, it's quite common when it's rehammered, are slightly too close to each other. So just made sure that doesn't happen, and they tend to touch each other if they are too close. Compare it with some other pianos to see how the tone compares. This is a new Feurich 179. And a 1986 Young Chang. So that's a Bluthner style 6 grand piano, 5 foot 9 inches long, made in 1912. We're always very grateful when we manage to source one of these, and this one's been well restored. We spent a couple of hours today just trying to perfect it, mainly the voicing of the hammers, trying to even it up. It's already very beautiful. If you can't come in and would like to try a piano out, then please write to us, info@robertspianos.com. Say what you'd like to do. Thank you very much for listening.